Greetings. My name is Tanya Rounds, and this summer I completed a research project funded by the Charles Center that is entitled Divine Action and Causal Determinism. Causal determinism is a principle which states that every physical event is a necessary effect of an efficient cause that precedes it. This poses a challenge to the concept of divine interventionism, that is, the principle that God intervenes in the world. After all, if hard science can demonstrate that all effects have a natural cause that is determined by the laws of physics, what purpose, if any, can be attributed to the causal activity of God? According to a 20th century theologian, Arthur Peacock, the theist ideal of God as a source of rationality and regularity in the created order appears to be undermined if one simultaneously wishes to depict God's action as both sustaining the laws of nature and at the same time intervening in ways that require God to break these very laws. Jeffrey Kopersky even goes so far as to say that for God to implement and then break his own laws would involve a kind of divine schizophrenia. Consequently, the concept of causal determinism threatens the idea of divine interventionism. This project has defended a principle of interventionist non-violationism, which states that divine intervention is consistent with the operation of natural causes as they are found in the world. This implies that God does not have to break the laws of nature in order to intervene, and that divine action is compatible with the world of ordinary causes and effects. The theological justification for the principle of interventionist non-violationism can be traced back to St. Thomas Aquinas, a Christian theologian and philosopher in the 12th century who thought that God is immaterial, unchanging, and eternal, and therefore uncreated. Conversely, God's creation is material and temporal, and therefore in need of a first cause that transcends nature, and that is the primary cause of all temporal being. In order to reconcile the laws of nature with divine interventionism, St. Thomas Aquinas distinguishes many different kinds of causes that operate in nature. In addition to natural causes, Aquinas argues that there is a higher cause that properly transcends and supersedes all other causes that are found in nature. Given that natural causes are dependent on the primary causal activity of God, Aquinas refers to them as secondary causes. Since God's causal activity properly transcends all secondary natural causes, God can bring about any effect that alters their function without violating their intrinsic operation in nature. This idea is referred to as God's transcendent causality. Whereas all natural processes proceed from secondary causes, the divine causality is nevertheless operative in nature as the primary cause that underlies the chain of secondary causes. For Aquinas, divine intervention reveals God's transcendent causality, which surpasses the world of natural causes and effects. Consequently, it is appropriate to assert that divine intervention does not presuppose an absence of order, but rather reveals a higher order in creation, as causal activity that proceeds from secondary causes is surpassed by the power of the primary cause that triggers the chain of secondary causes and upon which all secondary causes depend for their existence. In the Summa Theologicae, St. Aquinas says, whatever God does in things is not contrary to nature, but is nature in them, forasmuch as God is the author and controller of nature. This project has strived to remain neutral to whether or not God exists. The key finding of this project has only been that if there is such a being, that is God, who intervenes in the process of natural causation, one may consistently hold both that there are scientific processes that are in charge of physical causation, as well as a primary cause that interacts with the way in which these causes are manifest in the world. Therefore, this research project has sought to foster a sense of mutual respect and compatibility in the dialogue between science and faith.